Just looking at the video, you could tell that he was in distress. He needed help.
Let go of my hand.
Okay, we begin with troubling video of that woman's husband, a 61-year-old Alzheimer's patient who disappeared last December and ended up being punched in the head by police and arrested for drugs.
WSMV4 investigative reporter Stacey Cameron is the first reporter to obtain the full video and to talk to the man's wife.
He also has serious questions for that police officer tonight.
For Kimberly Henderson, pictures of her husband George bring tears.
He's a good person. He is really a good person.
That's because each one holds a memory of the man who devoted 40 years of his life to her and 29 years to his country. But memories, like photographs, fade sometimes.
What I miss the most is that was my best friend.
And Kimberly is missing George because his memory is fading due to Alzheimer's disease brought on by head injuries suffered during the war in Iraq.
He has probably the capacity of about a 4 or 5 year old.
While it breaks Kimberly's heart, she's almost thankful that George has no memory of December 6, 2024. That's the freezing cold day he disappeared from the couple's Clarksville home.
Just kept thinking I was going to lose him.
And a desperate life-saving search began.
Police want to know if you've seen this man on your screen. He's 61-year-old George Henderson. The TBI says he walked away from his home this afternoon.
6 hours after that silver alert went out, police body camera shows Officer Jacob Pritchett running into George 10 miles from his home at this gas station in Guthrie, Kentucky. But George wasn't getting rescued.
How's it going, brother? How you doing? Good.
He was about to get arrested. The store clerk called police saying George broke into his car. So when Pritchett saw him wearing 2 different shoes and acting incoherent,
Want to believe something about me? You can call some people.
he accused George of doing drugs.
Go ahead and turn around and put your hands behind your back for me. You got cocaine in your nose. Man, that's a lie. That's a lie. Don't
Forcefully wrestled him to the ground, punched George in the head,
let go of my hand.
and knocked him out before putting George in cuffs. Kimberly's reaction to the video
It just broke my heart.
was the same as Jeremy Stohigh, a lawyer working with Kimberly to sue the Guthrie Police Department.
Would you call this excessive force?
Absolutely.
He says this punch to the head is just half the story, because minutes later, Pritchett finally asks George's name, but when dispatch runs it and he learns about the silver alert,
10-4. He's still pending charges at this time, but you can advise he has been found.
Officer Pritchett didn't help George get home. He took him to jail on drug charges, attempted theft, resisting arrest, and assaulting a police officer.
You think they may be holding these criminal charges over George's head so that he won't sue them?
Sure, I don't just think that. I would say that I know that.
According to Stohigh, Guthrie police offered to dismiss the charges if they agreed that George's arrest was lawful. But when they said no, George was back in criminal court, where police and prosecutors got the case passed on to a grand jury after Pritchett testified that George bit and elbowed him during the arrest. We tried asking Pritchett questions about that after the hearing. The video doesn't appear to show the assault the way you described it. Were you lying on the stand? But he just walked away. 2 months after the incident, Kimberly wishes she could just forget.
Our family has gone through so much with this.
But with all her time now spent between court appearances and new doctor appointments, she says it's impossible to wipe away the memory of what happened to George.
This is our time. Whatever time I have left, I want to do family things.
3 things make this episode even more troubling. A urine test indicates George wasn't on drugs, and police didn't find any drugs or stolen property on him. There's also this certificate that shows Pritchett got special training last year called CIT that's supposed to help him recognize things like Alzheimer's disease to keep incidents like his run-in with George from turning violent. And finally, George is now suffering seizures that Kimberly says doctors believe are due to pressure on the brain from the punch to his head. We'll follow what happens to George next and let you know.
For WSMV4, I'm investigative reporter Stacey Cameron.